What is up, guys? Welcome to another video, and today we're going to go ahead and talk about the Crew 2 and more specifically my first impressions. This is going to be a relatively long video. I'm not actually even looking at the gameplay you're currently watching. I'm literally just going to speak to my microphone about what I think about the Crew 2 because honestly there's so much to talk about with this game. Without a doubt the most anticipated racing game for me like since Need for Speed 2015, and that probably says a lot for people that have been following the channel for a very long time. Now before we go ahead and get into this, I want to say thank you for Ubisoft for sending me out to play the Crew 2 early. It was a great opportunity and obviously I'm very thankful, and I want to make that very, very clear that that was the case before I go ahead and give my impressions, because I think it's important that you guys know what's happening behind the scenes and stuff. They've invited me to come and play the game, and that is literally it. I just wanted to make that little disclaimer before we go ahead and talk about it. As far as my history with the Crew goes, I was a big fan of the first one. I followed it ever since the first beta, and anyone who followed the original The Crew will know that they had so many betas, it was stupid. But I'm a big fan of the Crew as a whole. I'm a big fan of racing games, and again I think that's something which is important before I go ahead and actually talk about the Crew, because naturally there is going to be some bias in what I'm saying, because I like racing games, and even more specifically I like Ivory Tower. Now with that being said, I'm going to try to give my most level-headed response on everything that I'm talking about, so I can give you guys a good insight on what the Crew 2 is all about, my first impressions with playing with the final game, or a build that is very close to the final game, I should say, and I'm just talking about the gameplay, what's improved, what's changed, and everything in between. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk a bit more about the Crew 2. So firstly, I want to go ahead and say I had pretty high expectations for the Crew 2. I expected it to be heads and shoulders better than the first game. It was one of those things where I put so many hours into the first game. I probably put at least like a month or two, maybe more, into the first game. I was expecting this to be really, really good, and I'm honestly shocked about how far they've gone to really push the boundaries of what a racing game is. This is no longer a car game, as you may already know. They've got boats, they've got planes, and they've got bikes. Now for me, bikes and cars are the main two that I'm interested in. I'm not actually that awfully interested in bikes, but I do one day want to become more interested in them. I do want to eventually learn how to ride bikes, so I guess there's an avid interest there. It's a bit more casual than obviously cars is, because cars, I love cars. Like, cars are my passion. It's one of those things that's up there with music for me, which is a pretty big thing to say. And then obviously you got boats and planes, and I was very skeptical when I first heard about boats and planes, like I think most people were. You got the first bunch of people like me who were a bit skeptical about, oh, boats and planes and the Crew, how's that going to work? And then you had another bunch of people who were really excited for it. Now, like I said, I was skeptical, very, very, very skeptical. I went as far as to make a video at E3 when it was first announced, saying that this is not the direction that I wanted the game to go. That video never went live because I actually saw gameplay of it and I was like, whoa, this looks pretty good. I then got my hands on with the game at Gamescom, and my opinion like completely changed. The boat and the planes are so fun. If you even somewhat enjoy playing with the planes and boats in GTA, it's that on a million. I don't really know like why it is so fun. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to sit here and say that, I'm going to be spending most of my time in those vehicles, because that would be a complete lie. Most of my time is going to go into the cars and bikes, like I mentioned previously. But they are a bunch of fun, and you don't really have to go deep into it, I assume, after the story mode to, progress and whatever. They are there, but they don't intrude on the gameplay, and I would say they add a whole bunch to the gameplay. The races where you go off-road and then on-road, and then you go into a bike, and then you go into a plane, and then you go airborne, whatever. It's so much fun to have the free-forming races. Those are kind of like little boss events that you have to do at certain parts in the game. They are so much fun. I cannot give it a high enough praise. Again, if you aren't awfully interested in bikes or planes or whatever, don't feel like you are obliged to go ahead and sink like hours upon hours in those modes, because at least from what I've played so far, it doesn't seem like that's the case. But again, I might be wrong. The next thing I want to go ahead and talk about is the map, because again, this is something which I think a lot of people were a bit confused by when they first announced it. Obviously it's back in America again, and I know a lot of people weren't very happy about that. This map it feels completely different. It doesn't feel like the same map anymore. For those that played the original The Crew, you'll know that it didn't really have many layers to it. It was all on the ground. Obviously now, because there's bikes bikes and planes, you need to be able to go everywhere vertically. So the map, I feel like, has been completely redone. There's no facts behind that. I just feel like it feels like a different map. It doesn't feel like the same map. Now, obviously, it's the US, so there's going to be some similarities. But little things like the fact that if you are in a plane and you're in New York and then you drop as a car, there's a very high chance that you could actually fall on top of a building in a car. And you'll be chilling there in a car on top of a building unless you either decide to fall off or, you know, go back into a plane. Little things like that are really, really cool to me. It's just the attention to detail is really, really cool. Even little things like driving up steps that were previously, you know, there were barriers, there were invisible walls. Stuff like that to me is really, really cool. And maybe that's my nerdy side coming out a bit. Maybe that's, you know, like there's that weird part of me coming out. But stuff like that to me is awesome. And the whole idea of taking this festival setting and then just putting it on steroids is something which I feel this game has done just very, very well. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a few things which, you know, I don't believe they've talked about publicly, such as police not being in the game. The police won't be in the game, but for me and the direction that this game is taking, I don't think that is a bad thing. I think with the kind of Forza Horizon-esque festival, the Summit Festival type feeling they've gone with the game, it doesn't hinder it so much because obviously it wouldn't really make sense in a game which feels very, very legal. There's no illegal events in this game, at least from what I summed up. The story is a bit confusing and, you know, I don't want to talk about the story too much because that's for something that you should go through yourself and make your own decision on. I don't like the idea of spoiling stories. That's just not how I like to do things here. But overall, I don't think the game is hindered by not having police. I think that overall the attention to detail that has been taken into other parts of the game, such as drift mode, off-road mode, touring car racing, the amount of modes in this game and the amount of types of racing in this game, it's just absurd. You've got acrobatic plane races, then you've got endurance races, then you've got street racing, then you've got, you know, the drifting mode, the off-road mode, you've got, you know, the F1 kind of prototype races. There is so much content in this game. It is scary. It comes out at a time where we're all off for summer holidays, unless obviously you're an adult, and unlike me, I'm not an adult. It comes out at a time where, you know, most people, like, you know, watching my channel will have a lot of free time, and it's scary to see the amount of content which is in this game. Ever since I played it at Gamescom, I wanted to get my hands on this game again, and it's taken up until like a few weeks ago for me to have that, and it's just ridiculous. It's one of those things that once you play the game, you'll understand what I mean. As long as you gel with the physics and stuff, which I personally did, I thought the physics were a lot better than the last game. I didn't notice any severe buckling like there was in the original The Crew. If you didn't play the original Crew, essentially your car after jumps, or maybe when it was a bit unstable, instead of like having traction control kick in or anything like that, it would just buckle and then slide off to the side. This game is very, very different. I do feel like the physics have taken a huge step up, and as well as that, the tuning has also taken a huge step up. In this game, you can change everything from the traction control to the camber to the ESP to the, you know, how much help you have sliding around corners. There's so much with this game, it is stupid, and I'm going to keep drilling that down your throat because it's something which I can't put into words. The beta is coming up soon. And if you enjoyed the Crew, the original The Crew, even the slightest, if you even have the you know, very minimal, you know, interest in cars, boats, planes, bikes, I cannot urge you enough to try to get into this beta. I will be giving out codes, so, you know, again, follow me on Twitter if you want to go ahead and have a chance of winning some of the Crew codes, but I cannot speak highly enough of this game. It blew my mind. I was not expecting for what was supposed to be in the game to be in the game, and it's one of those things I just can't wait for full launch now. Unlike Need for Speed, when I played Need for Speed, I felt like there was something missing on Payback, but with the Crew 2, I was playing it and I was feeling like there was still stuff I needed to find out, and that is the best way that I can explain this game. Not only is it an exploration game, not only is it a competitive racing game, it is it's like the ultimate racing game for everyone. It's so easy to get into, it's so easy to jump into, but to get good at this game is something which is going to take time to master, and that is something which I can really appreciate that Ivory Tower has spent their time to go ahead and do, because not many of the games do that nowadays. Anyway, that's me kind of blabbering about my first impressions about the game. It has been a few weeks, I may have missed a few things about the game that I'm talking about, but there's going to be a lot of beta content when that obviously comes out. There's going to be a lot more general the Crew 2 content. I've got so many builds that I need to launch, you know, everything as well, like the performance upgrade system. I'm going to explain all of that. The houses, I'm going to explain all of that. There's so much to this game that you still don't know, which I'm going to be explaining, you know, in the coming weeks. So make sure to go ahead and stay subscribed to the channel. I will see you guys in the next one. You guys have been awesome. Stay safe and peace.